Hello, and welcome to our last lesson on the book of Genesis. Now, last week, we saw Joseph's family come to Egypt, and Jacob bless Ephraim and Manasseh. Today, we're going to close out the rest of the story of Genesis. So join me in Genesis 49, verses 1 and 2. Then Jacob called all of his sons and said, "Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you what shall happen to you in the last days to come. Assemble and listen, O sons of Jacob. Listen to Israel, your father." So Jacob is aware that he is getting ready to die. So he gathers all of his sons together in order to give them blessings. But these become prophetic blessings for each man, and it will become the prophetic blessing for each tribe that he represents. So let's talk about each one individually as Jacob gives these individual blessings. Verses 3 and 4 say, "Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might, and the first fruits of my strength, preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power. Unstable as water, you shall not have preeminence, because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch." So, as firstborn, Reuben should have been the one to inherit the firstborn status, but he forfeited his right as firstborn son when he slept with his father's concubine. So the tribe of Reuben actually never excels as a tribe. No prophet, no king, and no judge ever came from the tribe of Reuben. Let's move on to the next two tribes. Verse 5. "Simeon and Levi are brothers. Weapons of violence are their swords. Let my soul come not into their counsel, O my glory, but not joined to their company. For in their anger they killed men, and in their willingness they hamstrung oxen. Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel." So Jacob then moves on to his sons, Simeon and Levi, who are brothers. Their mother is both Leah. But these men are also tied together because of the same evil deed that they did against the men of Shechem. They murdered every man in the town of Shechem for retaliation for the rape of their sister Dinah. So Jacob treats them the same. Now, the tribe of Simeon was the weakest numerically of the 12 tribes, and it was eventually absorbed into the land given to the tribe of Judah. The prophetic dividing and scattering becomes a blessing for the tribe of Levi. Because of their later faithfulness during the rebellion of the golden calf, the tribe of Levi is scattered throughout the whole nation of Israel. Now, they don't receive any tracts of land because the Lord is actually their inheritance instead of land. Moving on to verse 8. "Judah, your brothers shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons shall bow down before you. Judah is a lion's cub. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He stooped down. He crouched as a lion, and as a lioness, who dares rouse him? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until tribute comes to him. And to him shall be the obedience of the peoples, binding his foal to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine. He has washed his garments in wine, and his vestures in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk." So Judah is the fourth-born son of Leah. Now, he wasn't a completely good example of godly character. However, this blessing is an example of God's richness in grace and mercy to the undeserving. It is Judah who was willing to sacrifice himself for Benjamin. And this leadership position that he is blessed with meant that the kings of Israel would come from the line of Judah. And ultimately, the ultimate leader, the Messiah, would eventually come from the tribe of Judah. This blessing also contained a description of Judah's material abundance. Judah's land was great wine-growing country, as foretold by Jacob. Let's move on to verse 13. Zebulun shall dwell at the shore of the sea. He shall become a haven for ships, and his border shall be as Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey, crouching between the sheepfolds. He saw that a resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant. So he bowed his shoulders to bear, and became a servant at forced labor. Okay, so Jacob now skips the birth order, and he moves on to Leah's other two children, Zebulun and Issachar, the 10th and 9th born sons, keeping the focus on Leah's children first. The tribe of Zebulun settled in a piece of land that sat between the Mediterranean Sea and the Sea of Galilee. Issachar was a large tribe, third in the size according to Numbers 26. Because of their size and abundance, they were often targets of oppressive foreign enemies who put them into servitude, just as Jacob had foretold. Let's move on to the next grouping. Verse 16. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent in the way, a viper by the path, that he bites the horse's heels, so that his rider falls backward. But I wait for your salvation, O Lord. Raiders shall raid Gad, but he shall raid at their heels. All right, so Jacob now moves on to Bilhah's firstborn son, Dan. This tribe did end up judging the people of Israel, supplying one of the most preeminent judges, Samson. Dan was also a troublesome tribe. They introduced idolatry into Israel. Jacob then moves on to Zilpah's firstborn son, Gad, who supplied many troops for King David's army. Verse 20. Asher's food shall be rich, and he shall yield royal delicacies. Naphtali is a doe, let loose that bears beautiful fawns. Okay, so then Jacob moves on to Asher and Naphtali, the second-born sons of his handmaidens. Now Asher, the land that was occupied by this tribe, was good enough to bring not only necessities, but also a lot of luxuries. And Naphtali's land was a portion near the Sea of Galilee, the region where Jesus did most of his teaching and ministry. So let's move on to the final grouping of sons, the sons of Rachel. In verse 22. Joseph is a fruitful bough by a spring. His branches run over the wall. The archers bitterly attack him, shoot at him, and harass him severely. Yet his bow remains unmoved. His arms were made agile by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. From there is a shepherd, the stone of Israel. By the God of your father who will help you, by the Almighty who will bless you, the blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that crouches beneath, blessing of the breast and of the womb. The blessing of your father are mighty beyond the blessing of my parents, up to the boundaries of the everlasting hills. May they be on the head of Joseph, and on the brow of him who is set apart from his brothers. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, in the morning devouring the prey, and at evening dividing the spoil. So Jacob now moves to his 11th and 12th son, because Dinah is not a son, so she does not get an inheritance. But Jacob speaks of Joseph. This is both a description of Joseph's life and a personal blessing concerning his descendants. His tribe was some of the most populous ones. And Benjamin, the 12th son, was a ravenous wolf. This was the tribe with a fierce reputation. The cruelty of this tribe is seen in the book of Judges and through King Saul and Paul before he became Saul. Let's wrap up chapter 49. Verse 28. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel. This is what their father said to them as he blessed them, blessing each with the blessing suited to him, that he commanded them and said to them, I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, to the east of Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite, to possess as a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and there I buried Leah. The field and the cave that is in it were bought from the Hittites. When Jacob finished commanding his sons, he drew up his feet in the bed and breathed his last and was gathered to his people. So after Jacob blesses each one of his sons, he commands them to bury him with his family back in the land of Canaan and breathes his last, surrounded by his family. So let's move on to chapter 50 and close out this book of Genesis. Genesis 50, verse 1. Then Joseph fell on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. 40 days were required for it, and that is how many are required for embalming. And the Egyptians wept for him 70 days. And when the days of weeping for him were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, For now, if I have found favor in your eyes, please speak to the ears of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, I am about to die in my tomb, that I have hewn out for myself in the land of Canaan. There you shall bury me. Now therefore let me please go up and bury my father, then I will return. And Pharaoh answered, Go up and bury your father, as he made you swear. So Joseph went up to bury his father. With him went all of the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his household, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, as well to all the household of Joseph, his brothers, and his father's household. Only their children, their flocks, and their herds were left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen. It was a very great company. When they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, they lamented there with a great and grievous lamentation, and made a mourning for his father 7 days. When the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning by the Egyptians. Therefore the place is called Abel Mizraim. It is beyond the Jordan. Thus his sons did for him as he had commanded them. For his sons carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, that is east of Mamre, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron the Hittite to possess a burying place. After he had buried his father, Joseph returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had come up with him to bury his father. So Jacob is mourned deeply by Joseph and all of Egypt, and we're told for a total of 70 days. Now, a royal mourning in Egypt would be 72 days, so Jacob was obviously greatly honored man in the land of Egypt. Joseph requests Pharaoh's permission to bury his father back in Canaan, honoring the promise that he made to his father, and all of the family travels back with Jacob to the cave of Machpelah. Let's find out the rest of the story. Verse 15. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, It may be that Joseph will hate us and pay us back for all the evil that we did to him. So they sent a message to Joseph saying, Your father gave this command before he died. Say to Joseph, Please forgive the transgressions of your brothers and their sin, because they did evil to you. And now please forgive the transgressions of the servants of God of your father. Joseph wept when they spoke to him. His brothers also came and fell down before him and said, Behold, we are your servants. But Joseph said to them, Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So do not fear. I will provide for you and your little ones. Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. So after Jacob's death, Joseph's brothers fear that Joseph might seek revenge finally with his father out of the way for all of the past misdeeds that they had done to him. It's obvious that they haven't let go of their guilt, even though Joseph forgave them a long time ago. But Joseph responds with grace and forgiveness, assuring them that it is God who used their evil intentions for good to preserve many lives, including their own. And finally, verse 22. So Joseph remained in Egypt, he and his father's house. Joseph lived 110 years, and Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the third generation. The children also of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were counted as Joseph's own. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will visit you and bring you up out of this land to the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here. So Joseph died, being 110 years old. They embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. So Joseph lives out the rest of his life in Egypt, but keeps his heart set on the promised land. Before he dies, he asks that his bones be carried back to Canaan when they return, a powerful act of faith and God's future plans that the nation of Israel would return to the land of Canaan one day. For 400 years, Joseph's embalmed body rested in a sarcophagus as a silent reminder that their home was in Canaan, a place that they would one day return. Joseph died looking forward to God's plan of redemption for the nation of Israel. And this is where the book of Genesis, the book of beginnings, ends.